What's up, Internet, and welcome to the YieldTomato Gaming channel for our first actual pickups video of 2019. This isn't a traditional pickups video for me, because I'm not just going to show you everything I got over the last couple months, because this is a relatively late one to be starting this. So I'm going to call this more of a highlights video. Basically the things that I felt were either the most sentimental or the more important emotionally to us. I don't know. It's hard for me to really gestate this on why and how I picked out these, but this is just the highlights, more or less, is what it really comes down to. So let's start with a couple of Game Gear games for that exist because of one of my favorite movies. That would be Jurassic Park and Lost World of Jurassic Park for the Game Gear. I don't remember a lot of this particular game, the first one, but the second one, Lost World, is a really, really good game. Not super long, but really fun to play. Particularly there's a mission involving the Carnotaurus as a boss. Carnotaurus being also my favorite dinosaur. Where, like, it's knocking out the power, and you can't shoot it until you travel the other side of the screen and get the power back on. And it's just a really fun, like, gameplay loop of dodging its attacks while you're shooting at it when the power's on, and then it knocks it back out. You have to go over and try and hit the lights again, kind of thing. But it's a side-scrolling shooter, kind of like Contra, just not as fast. But really fun game. And I figured why not pick up the first one as well. I mean, it was cheap from the same seller. So, went ahead and did that. This next one's a DS game that is in fact sentimental. That would be Digimon World Dusk. Our friend got this for us for Christmas, and the reason why this is sentimental is because my wife had this game previously, before we moved in together, and it, along with her DS, were stolen from her roommate's daughter. At least we perceive it to be her roommate's daughter. It might as well have been her roommate for all we know. But this was a game she was really into at the time, and that was taken along with one of her Final Fantasy DS games. I think it was Rings of Fate. But this one is what really bugged her the most, and it doesn't make it any easier knowing that the price on this particular game has been going up and away. But a good friend of ours got it for her for Christmas, which was really cool. So it's really nice to have this one back. Now we just gotta get Digimon World Dawn so I can play that one, and then she can play this one and do the whole Pokemon thing where we need to get different ones. Oh, marketing, isn't it great? Let's go with a weird mix and match set here of multiple generations. And I'm going to do multiple generations and multiple systems because these all happen to be exclusive to a particular retailer. These are all games that were only ever available through GameStop. The first one, and admittedly I think the most recent one, is Bendy and the Ink Machine. A first-person horror-inspired game designed around the Rubber House of Animation stylings. And this looks like it's super up my alley. It kind of is somewhat reminiscent of Resident Evil 6. Or not 6, excuse me, Resident Evil 7. Very different from 6. And we're just going to continue to work ourselves backwards here. These next two came out relatively close to each other, I believe. And that would be Home Sweet Home and Daracene. Home Sweet Home just looks like basically a VR version of Layers of Fear. That's what I was thinking. Very similar setup, and oddly enough, it's published by Mastiff, which I didn't even know they were still around, because the only other thing I know of from Mastiff that we have is La Poicile Tactics for the PS2. And then we've got as I mentioned earlier, Diracine, which is Studio Japan and From Software. More or less, I believe this is actually from the not just the studio, but the team behind Dark Souls, and I'm curious to see if this kind of falls into play with any of the lore from any of those games. But basically, you're a fairy, and you're traveling around the, I want to say boarding school? Helping the children in the boarding school, or interacting with them in some way, shape, or form. So that was pretty interesting. But figured I'd snag those, because those are both exclusives as well. And going back in time a bit, we're going to go with the Natsume published Tulip. A very bizarre dating sim adventure? It's hard to really describe this one. But yeah, it's one of those games that was very odd, and the only reason it even really came out is, at least over here, is because GameStop was willing to house it. But it looks really quirky, and I like quirky games, especially from the PlayStation 2 era. Like, when you're looking at the 64-bit consoles, they've got some pretty quirky, endearing, enjoyable titles, and I figured this would probably be one of them, and it's probably just going to get harder to get down the road. So I figured, why not pick it up? But yeah, a couple of retailer exclusives. It's actually something I've been meaning to do a video on, just discussing them and such, so maybe I'll do that one relatively soon, just to do it. Who knows? Anyway, next, let's do the other 3 Switch games that we got here. One from NIS and 2 directly, or well, actually not directly. One NIS, one Nintendo, and one from Ubisoft. We've got Super Mario Party. If you don't know what this is about, then you've been living under a rock for the last 20 years. Mario Party is literally just a Mario board game with a bunch of mini-games designed around the controllers that they have. And this one is very, very good. Much better than the last one we had on the, what was it, the Wii U? Yeah, that was the one where everyone was in the same cart going around. It wasn't really all that enjoyable to me, or really to most people, but this one was a very solid return to form. And we've got Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. I like tactical strategy games, but I'm usually really picky with them. I much prefer the sci-fi games, sci-fi influenced tactics games than I do to the fantasy ones for some reason. But this one, say what you will, I like the Rabbids. I think they're hilarious. And this was a game that probably shouldn't exist, but it does. And it was on a really good sale just after the holiday, so I figured I should probably pick it up, because it's, like, yes, it's Ubisoft published, but it's a Mario game, and those don't go down in price. When they go down in price, they go down to $20, and they get a really nasty, ugly border around them. Which I hate. So when any like Nintendo first party game that I didn't buy at launch goes on sale, I tend to get it, just so that way I don't have to worry about the ugly borders. That's actually a big part of why I don't like Greatest Hits. I don't like Player's Choice or Platinum Hits. I mean, all those, they just ugly the cases. I would really like the PlayStation 1 Greatest Hits if they were not green bordered. If they were like gray bordered instead of black bordered, you know, to make that difference, it would still fall in line, it wouldn't look as ugly. But anyway, I digress. The next one is a RPG mixed with what I can assume is a dating sim from NIS, called Caligula Effect Overdose. This is an enhanced port of a Vita title that came out a couple years ago, but that Vita title I believe was only digital, which is why I didn't get it, and I love my PlayStation Vita. I just hate digital-only titles. But this one looks fascinating. My wife and I both saw it and we're like, this looks really neat. We need to have this. So we figured, well, after a little research, this was definitely the one to get. That, and I like the idea of RPGs on the Switch, because then they're on the go. And you can also still have something on the TV in the background. really bad about that. Let's see. Let's go with a few more steps back in time here. We got a PlayStation 2 and a GameCube game here. Ooh. We've got Armored Core 9breaker and F-Zero GX. Armored Core 9breaker is, or I should say was, I believe, the last PlayStation 2 Armored Core game I needed to have the whole set. And I love the Armored Core games. In fact, I think up until Armored Core 5, anything before Armored Core 5, I really, really liked. I especially liked when they started amping up the speed of these games. Armored Core 4 Answer was awesome. But I haven't played all the PS2 ones, and I wanted to get them, so I did. Actually, I didn't get this, excuse me. My wife got me this one for Christmas, so that was really cool, along with a couple of other games, which I just realized I need to pull one off of the shelf behind me later. And then F-Zero GX, need I say more? A super, like, challenging high-speed racing game, developed by Sega, of all people, for Nintendo's platform. This is the last true F-Zero game we got, and it kind of sucks because it's really, really good. I picked this up because it happened to go into my friend's shop, and he knocked a couple bucks off for me, and I love the guy. The guy's a good friend of mine. I helped him set up his shop every time he's either moved or changed locations from when he first got his business license. So he takes good care of me, and I send people his way all the time. But anyway, yeah, F-Zero GX. If you like racing games and want something that's, like, thrilling, this is it. Holy criminy. And, let's see. This one is a bittersweet thing almost for me, and that is... I don't know why I said bittersweet, but it's an odd feeling. It is Back to the Future, the game. From Telltale Games. It's kind of upsetting because Telltale Games is no more. But this is spiritually the sixth movie. Not sixth movie. Oh my god, I can't speak today. Fourth movie into the Back to the Future series. Taking place at the end of Back to the Future 3, maybe a little bit after that. I don't remember how far. And suddenly the DeLorean appears after Marty saw it destroyed by the train. So, yeah. We don't have Michael J. Fox voicing Marty. We have some other person. His name's in here. I'm going to find it. AJ Locasio, excuse me, does a really good performance that sounds an awful lot like Michael J. Fox at the time. But Michael J. Fox does make cameo in the game. I believe he plays his future self. And then we also have Christopher Lloyd back playing Doc Brown. But yeah, this is actually really enjoyable. I remember when this first came out, I got like one of the digital episodes of it and really enjoyed what I played of it. And then when I realized it was on disc, I needed to get it, and I just never got around to it. This did get a re-release on PS4 and Xbox One for, I believe, the 30th? Or no, maybe it was the 25th anniversary of something? What would have been? Because the first one was 1985. So it came out in 2015, so is when they put it on PS4 and Xbox One. So yeah, that would have been the 30 year. Yes, that sounds right. But yeah, so don't have to get it on PS3, but you can. It's also on 360, which I think was a 20th anniversary, or 25th anniversary one. And then you've got the Xbox One and PS4 versions. So there's many ways to get and play this game. If you're a fan of the movies, you totally should, because it was co-written by the original writer and produced by one of the frickin' producers of the movies. So, I mean, totally worth looking at this if you were a fan of those movies and wish there were more. So, next, let's go with a couple of standalone PS4 games I got here. I got Tetris Effect. I don't care who you are, you know what Tetris is and you love Tetris. If you don't love Tetris, you're wrong. Uh, no, Tetris is just one of those classic puzzle games. That was kind of a sad story that became a great success story with Alexei Pashinov, who actually is technically behind this because he is half owner of the Tetris company. So there you go. But yeah, definitely fun. Got a lot of really good music in this game. And it amps up the better you do, the longer you play. I mean, it's a really fun time, lots of cool visuals. Definitely worth getting. And it's relatively affordable, too, actually. I think it released at $40. You can probably find it for less now. Then I also got New Gundam Breaker. I love the Gundam series. I kind of fell off with some of the new ones, but particularly I loved Gundam Wing, and Gundam Seed was awesome. And that's where I stopped watching, was after Gundam Seed. But Gundam Wing was like my jam. And this game is a lot of fun. It's kind of quirky and weird in a couple of aspects, but I played all the way through the story and had a really good time with it. This is like the build your own Gundam fantasy that every kid had watching Gundam growing up off of Toonami and stuff. So it was really neat to be able to mess around with that. I just wish they had like all the customs, like all the Wing Gundam custom and the Sandrock custom. Like, they have some of them, but they don't have all of them. And then I really wish they had Epyon. Epyon's the best. But, I mean, this is the first in the Gundam Breaker series we got. I've heard that there are better ones overseas, but this is the first one that came to the US, and I felt I needed to support that in some way, shape, or form to, you know, kind of just make it clear that, like, more of these need to come over here. Namco Bandai, bring us more. So, yeah. Then got for Christmas. I got this for Christmas from my grandfather-in-law. Was Call of Cthulhu. This game, it gets a lot of really weird reviews. Like, they're really mixed. The way I look at things when I'm doing my reviews here on the channel, I try not to judge things based on my personal preferences of them so much as their success at what they're trying to be. So, like there are elements I may really love about a game that would make me, like, keep playing it, but I can acknowledge that it's not very successful in a lot of stuff that it's trying to do, because a lot of stuff I may like that isn't really what it's aiming for. This game falters a little bit on its execution, but overall it's a really fun experience. I enjoyed how a lot of the choice systems worked in this. It's definitely worth multiple playthroughs. You can definitely miss a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff to miss very easily. My biggest complaint is that the game feels like it's rushed a bit more at the end, which is really unfortunate. I also would have liked a couple more areas should have had multiple solutions to progression, but there are a couple that do have that kind of setting. So there's some really cool stuff and really unique dialogue you can get based on your stat allocation at the beginning of the game. But ultimately, definitely an enjoyable game. If you get a chance, you really should play it if you like psychological horror or horror in a general sense, because the atmosphere is really nice in this. So now we're going to move on to some of the bigger stuff. If you couldn't tell, I'm a really big Capcom fan. They recently have done a lot of things that I'm very happy with as a longtime fan, and a lot of other longtime fans are also very happy with a lot of their decisions. So the next thing I'm going to pull up here is Devil May Cry 5. The game's a little short for my liking in most cases, but it's really, 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 really good. Man, this is a really good game. Like, there were moments of 4 I wasn't terribly fond of. Some of the pacing was weird. But this game, its pacing is rock solid, I feel. There's a couple of things I normally don't like. I don't like when a game jumps around in its time frame for storytelling, because I feel like that tends to make things really confusing. But it does that in a way that didn't irritate the hell out of me, which is weird. Characters are great. The new character V is really neat. He's a stark contrast to Dante, like hard, and it's still even so a contrast to Nero, but he works really nicely, and his gameplay elements are very unique, and there's a lot to like about this game. And they included something that Resident Evil 6 did that I really liked, which was crossing paths if you're online. So if someone's playing the corresponding mission for another character, where your character would cross paths with them, they cross paths with you in a very minor way. And I like a lot when that happens. I'm very curious if it still does that if you have PlayStation Plus or not. Because I have PlayStation Plus, but there's so much to enjoy about this game. Complex and also easy to execute combos in a lot of cases. For all the characters, V being the most difficult, but also the most unique playstyle. It's a really neat game. Definitely recommend it. This is not a review, but I love Devil May Cry. Not as much, though, as the next game I'm going to put up here for you. Resident Evil 2 Remake happened. I hated that this was a GameStop exclusive, because I really try not to give them a whole lot of my money for new releases, because I really don't like some of their business practices, particularly the selling of a product before knowing their allocation count and then canceling orders en masse. Has happened to me with some pre-orders that were limited and exclusive, and then there was the whole Kingdom Hearts 3 Special Edition console debacle. I don't know if you guys heard about, but they canceled like half their pre-orders for that thing. I mean, it was a mess. So basically, I was like watching my pre-order like a hawk. I was so excited, but I wanted to make sure I got it. And this game did not disappoint. It takes the best of every single Resident Evil game, basically. You have the defensive items, a la the Resident Evil 1 remake, but it's not just defensive items, it's your actual inventoried knife, which you then have to down the enemy, and then you can pick the knife back up out of them and use it again, which is just a genius way of handling that. You've got the graphic engine they use for Resident Evil 7, only clearly bumped up to like 11 or 20, because holy criminy, this game is beautiful. And then you've got the over-the-shoulder third-person camera that everyone fell in love with Resident Evil 4. But then you've got the story, characters, and setting of Resident Evil 2. And this is, like, basically this is a dream thing for me. I mean, it's almost surreal that one of my favorite games from, like, 20 years ago is back with a fresh coat of paint. And by fresh coat of paint, I mean everything has been overhauled to the extreme. If you haven't played this yet, or whatever, you should. It's an amazing game. I have platinumed this game, and I need to get the game now on Xbox One so I can 100% it on that too. I mean, I love this game so much. It's such an amazing experience. I highly recommend it to everybody. It's not a review, but it is a review, but it's not a review. Buy it, for the love of God. Buy this game. Show Capcom that this is what we want. Capcom's done an excellent job lately of listening to the fans. After the disappointment of RE6 and the disappointment of DMC Devil May Cry, they listened, and the fans are supporting their listening to them by buying. So you should totally look at Devil May Cry 5, totally look at Resident Evil 2 Remake. I'm hopeful for a Dino Crisis remake, because doing that in the vein of this game's over-the-shoulder camera with the graphic fidelity of the RE engine, which is just insane, I'd love to have that. I want Capcom to revisit more of their older IPs that they haven't touched in a while, and really expand on stuff. So that's kind of why I'm hopeful for that. Plus, a lot of the lab setting stuff can be reused asset-wise in a Dino Crisis remake, so it could work. But anyway, yeah. So, what do you guys think of these pickup highlights? Have you picked up any of these games? what did you think of them? I'm very curious because not everyone has the same opinion, and I watch pickup videos all the time myself, just to get ideas as to what might, strike a fancy with me. You never know. There's thousands upon thousands of games out there. Look at the PS2. I mean, there's, I think, 2,000 officially released titles on that platform, something like that. I mean, there's so many games that so many people never get to experience, and pickup videos are a great way to show your interest to others who may also share in your interests. So with that said, guys, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Stay up to date with all of our latest videos, and be sure to click the bell to be notified the moment we put up our new videos. I try to do one every week, so check back. And until next time, we'll see you in the next video. Take care.